Hi, this is Theo from PocketBlocks.com. Today I'm going to do a little mixed media sketch with some watercolor, color pencils and ink. This is the sketch I'm going to color today. Let me show you the tools I'm going to use first. I'm going to be using Kandahar drawing ink. This is a type of India ink. I like this particular one because this is not 100% black, this is almost like 95%, and when you color over lines like this, you will still be able to see the lines show through the black. And then I'm going to use watercolor. This is Kuretake Gansai Tambi. I'm going to use watercolor to color most of the sketch and then touch it up with some color pencils. These are Derwent color pencils. This is Derwent watercolor, and this is Derwent Inktense. So let me start with the India ink first. I'm going to color the shadow areas and the seeds, basically the areas that are black. I'm just going to dip my watercolor brush into the ink and pick up some ink and color this area first. For the wheels, I'm just going to color them black as well. They are just going to merge with the shadow on the ground. Okay, I'm almost done with the black. I'm going to wait for this to dry before I add watercolor. This is already dry. Let me show you what I meant earlier when I say that this ink is not 100% black. So you can still see the lines showing through even though I covered over the lines with the Kandahar ink. And this is something that I like because sometimes I do want to see the line art show through even if I overlay it with black ink. And Kandahar drawing ink, the India ink, is quite nice because it can do that. With other brands, it will be totally black. Now I'm going to add watercolor to this sketch. I'm going to be using Kuretake Gansai Tambi. This is a toy car. I'm going to be adding some yellow first to this area here, and then add some green color. So I'm going to be using some wet on wet techniques. I'm just going to slowly work my way across the sketch. You can see that this green color is not exactly transparent. The line art here is almost gone, but it doesn't matter. Later on I can use color pencils to highlight that area. I think there is too much paint, too much water on the paper, so I'm just going to dry this area up with a dry brush. By the way, this area here is supposed to be black as well. I forgot to color that. Anyway, I will touch up later on. Now let me wash my brush. I'm going to color the ground, perhaps with some blue and burnt sienna like color. Oops. Let me add a bit more blue. You get a nice gray when you mix burnt sienna, an earth tone with a blue like this. Let me use some blue for this area as well. This is almost dry. Now I'm going to go in with this dark green color pencil to shade the shadow side. So I'm just going to shade this side in a vertical manner. So you can see once you use color pencil, you get that additional texture, and it can be quite interesting when you combine it with watercolor like that. Oops, some parts here are not dry yet. The nice thing about watercolor pencil is you can put a flat wash onto the paper and then apply the color pencil. It will give you a different effect. Oops, this part is not dry yet. For the background, I'm going to go in with a combination of greens. This is Crimson Lake, and this is some sort of brown, maybe some purple or violet. I will start with the darker green first. Just do some random lines as if they are foliage. So I want to mix up the colors a bit so that they will be a bit more interesting. Later on this part, I'm going to put some water and then apply color pencil, but for this area here, this will be dry. And finally, this is brown ochre. So it looks something like this. Now for this part, I'm going to wet the surface first. Now that it's wet, I will use the same colors and go in. So you can see that the colors are now much stronger. Also, the texture is a bit more solid compared to those on the left side. Let me switch to brown ochre. So you can get very solid lines with watercolor on a wet wash. And this is one effect that I like. So you can see here what is this color? Field green. This field green gives you a much stronger color when you apply it on water than compared to applying it on dry paper like this. So this is on dry paper and this is on the wash. Very nice. And what's the other color? This is emerald green. So let me zoom out. So I really like the colors on the right side when I apply water and then use color pencils. So now I'm going to apply water on this part here and see what will happen if I apply color pencils. This is water soluble color pencil, so when you put a wash over it, the pigment will dissolve. Let me go back with the field green and try and draw the same vertical lines and see if I'm able to do so. I'm not getting the effect that I really want. It looks like it doesn't work as well when you wet the watercolor. So it works better when the paper is dry. This is yellow. Not much effect. Let me switch to violet. I'm going to do some cross hatching marks on the ground here and see if I can get some texture going on. So again, this is very dry, very textural. Let me wet this area and see what will happen. This is pretty wet. So it does work well, so you can see the difference immediately. So it did not work so well for the green here, but it works well with this violet. And now I'm going to try something different. I'm going to dip my color pencil into water and see what will happen. You get the stronger color with the water, but after a while it just dries out, so it doesn't work that well. So it's best if you give it a wash first before you add the color pencils. Oops, I think this area here I shouldn't have touched it. I just wanted to add a bit more black to it, but it seems that once you add water onto the India ink, the ink sort of breaks apart, so it doesn't look that well. But anyway, this is it. I'm going to use India ink again to touch up the areas that I forgot to color just now, which is this area. Using watercolor with watercolor pencil is quite fun. You can get effects that are not possible with watercolor alone. For example, you can get the dry pencil effect here, and if you apply a layer of water on the surface, you can get more vibrant strokes. You can get strokes that have sharper edges, and these lines here are so much easier to create with color pencils compared to watercolor, and you cannot create this sort of effect with watercolor, of course. One thing to note is when you apply water on the surface, it doesn't always work well. For example, this area, I applied water over the green wash earlier on and then use the green color pencil. It doesn't work as well compared to this area here. Another thing to note is if you are using India ink, make sure to test it. For some India ink, they are not waterproof. I think this is not really waterproof, so some of the ink actually broke up earlier on. So that's something to take note of. But overall, you can get a very unique look with watercolor and color pencils. I think I'm going to use this technique more often in the future, especially when applying wash to the background. I like the lines here, they are very strong. The paper I recommend for mixed media work is watercolor paper because they handle watercolor very well, much better than so-called mixed media paper. If you want to get watercolor paper, make sure you get cold press and make sure you get ones that have very fine grain texture. I'm thinking for cold press, they have rougher paper and also smoother paper. I recommend the paper with finer grain because when you use pencils on smoother paper, you can get more pigment onto the paper. If you are going to be using pencils like this on rough paper, you have to press very hard and you will still see the white of the paper showing through, and you don't want that because sometimes you want the colors to cover the paper. So I recommend watercolor paper. You can try hot press paper as well. I think it will work pretty nicely. One last thing I want to talk about is when you have completed your sketch like this, make sure you spray fixative over it because color pencil lines, you can run your finger over it and it will actually smear the area, so it might damage your artwork. So it's good to spray some fixative over it to protect the whole thing. But for watercolor, once it's dry, it's waterproof. Just that for color pencils, graphite, they are not permanent, so a fixative is very useful. That's all for my short demonstration today. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comment section just right below this video. And if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, do so for more sketching tips, tutorials, art product reviews. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.